Hey, what's up everybody, and welcome to another episode of News Dose where I give you some of the latest news on games. And several things have been happening in the gaming industry, including some interesting stuff about Pokemon Sword and Shield, which could be exciting depending on how you view it. But before I get into all that, I want to talk a bit about Sunset Overdrive because it appears Sony now owns the Sunset Overdrive IP. Now, of course, we know that Sony just acquired Insomniac Games in a huge move that made waves across the gaming community. But the Sunset Overdrive IP was kind of in question and whether or not we will ever see a sequel or not. If we look back to earlier this generation, Insomniac Games was looking for a new publisher for a new IP that they had been working on, but because Sony wanted to own the IP, Insomniac Games took it to other publishers where they ultimately ended up partnering up with Microsoft. Sunset Overdrive ended up being one of the better reviewed exclusives for the Xbox One, but wasn't exactly a huge success in terms of units sold for either Insomniac or Microsoft either. But this hasn't stopped the community from asking for a sequel, which hopes seemed to have vanished once Insomniac Games was acquired. But now Sony has confirmed, and yes, I did say confirmed, that Sony owns the Sunset Overdrive IP, which is kind of funny to think about considering Insomniac Games specifically took it to other publishers because they didn't want Sony to own the IP. Kind of ironic really, but yes, this does raise the question on whether or not Sunset Overdrive will get a sequel. I guess if anything, it isn't impossible, but I wouldn't expect it to happen anytime soon either, mainly because for the foreseeable future, Insomniac will more than likely be working on the Spider-Man IP, and of course they have their virtual reality team as well, but in terms of Insomniac sequels, I would expect a Ratchet & Clank game or Resistance before Sunset Overdrive, which have both been more successful franchises than Sunset Overdrive. I'd imagine they may try to find a way to get their Oculus Rift exclusive Stormland on PlayStation VR as well, if possible, which looks amazing by the way. Personally, I would like to see another Sunset Overdrive though, because it really is a good game and it was kind of overshadowed because of Xbox One's poor reception by much of the gaming community at the time. Still though, it's a game that definitely deserves more attention than what it got. What about you though? Would you like to see a Sunset Overdrive sequel, or would you like them to instead focus on some of their other franchises like Resistance and then of course Ratchet & Clank? Let me know in the comments below. In other news, Klonoa may be making a return as Namco Bandai trademarked Klonoa of the Wind Encore, as well as some others including Splatterhouse and Mr. Driller. Klonoa is the one that I find to be the most interesting though, as it has always been one of the lesser known mascots of the 90s, but something that is still immediately recognizable and was pretty well received on top of that. The trademark itself being named Encore makes it sound as if it's a remaster or a remake of sorts, so maybe the original Klonoa made in 1997 will be coming back, which would actually be the second time considering it also got a remaster for the Nintendo Wii back in 2008. So it could be a remaster of a remaster, a little bit of an Inception going on there. Of course, this could be a completely new game or a remaster of several other games in this franchise, and it's kind of hard to tell right now, but this is certainly something to keep an eye out for. Now, something that I've been doing for the last few weeks is playing a lot of Gears 5, and it really is an amazing game, both in terms of its single player and its multiplayer, which is kind of rare for games today, but Microsoft did shed some light on its success, revealing that it's the biggest launch for any Xbox Game Studios game this generation with over 3 million players in its opening weekend. Of course, Gears 5 did also launch on Xbox Game Pass, and as games analyst Huge pointed out, Gears 5 has become the first mega hit for Xbox Game Pass with a ton of people signing up for the service. The question now is how many people will stay subscribed, and I think they will see some pretty good numbers there because it really is an excellent service. Really though, congratulations to both the Coalition team who developed Gears 5 and Xbox Game Pass. This is well deserved on both ends. Moving on, TGS was happening last week, and something very big happened there that I think is worth discussing for a brief moment. Now, we do know that Final Fantasy VII Remake is coming in 2020, but one thing that I think many of the old school fans really wanted was turn-based combat like the original, but for a long time it seemed that Square Enix had decided to opt out on a more modern approach and make it more of an action-based RPG instead. Well, good news for you old school Final Fantasy VII fans, they did add a turn-based mode as well, calling it Classic Mode, so you can have the option of playing either way you want. In Classic Mode, you will be able to fill up an ATB gauge, attack in real time, and pause the action to cast spells. This is actually very big news, and I've said this before, but it really does seem like Final Fantasy VII Remake is in good hands, and I expect this game to be great in all facets. There is a bit of bad news too. Well, I guess that depends on who you ask, but Rockstar has decided to bring their own game launcher to PC, calling it Social Club. It'll include Rockstar games such as Grand Theft Auto, Bully, and LA Noire, and you actually get a free copy of San Andreas if you sign up right now. So, well, that's a pretty good thing, but I feel like PC gamers are a bit tired of the countless game launchers that are popping up on PC by this point. You have Steam, Epic Games Store, Blizzard's launcher, you have GOG, EA Origin, Uplay, Bethesda's launcher, you have the Windows Store, and it just seems like there's too many as it stands. And I get it, because these developers are trying to make more money, but the consumers often argue it's a detriment to the consumer. Rockstar is a huge developer though, making some of the most successful games ever, so I expect this launcher to do well in terms of numbers if they start making their own games exclusive to their own launcher. One of the reasons people don't really complain about Blizzard's launcher is because, for similar reasons, where the quality of their games are just so great, people just don't care. This may actually be preparing for Red Dead Redemption 2 exclusive launch on their own storefront. Not sure if people will be too happy with that or not, but at least it will be on PC, so hoping we get some news on that end soon. Now the last thing I want to talk about is Pokemon Sword and Shield, because over the last few days several things have happened. Of course, you have probably heard about Ash finally winning his first ever Pokemon League, but it appears there may not actually be an Elite Four in Pokemon Sword and Shield. This is being reported by a smaller website by the name of Jack of All Controllers that has pointed out that the Pokemon website may be indicating that they are replacing the Elite Four with a Pokemon Champion Cup of sorts. If we have noticed anything lately, Game Freak has been trying to change the formula in small ways over the last 2 generations, and actually in Pokemon Sun and Moon they replaced gyms entirely, so I don't think this is too far out of the possibility. And hey, if they find a way to make the Champion Cup more interesting than the Elite Four, I'm all in for that. Also, one other small thing I wanted to talk about with Pokemon is the number of Pokemon that will actually be in the game. If you've been following Pokemon Sword and Shield at all, you've probably noticed the large amount of controversy that has surrounded the game due to not every Pokemon being in Sword and Shield. But the question remains, how many will there actually be? Well, according to YouTuber Austin John Plays, the rough estimate should stand to being around 420 to as high as 630. But we should probably expect at least 500 Pokemon in Pokemon Sword and Shield. This is because an official Pokemon Pokedex for the Galar region is up for pre-order on Amazon, and it's being listed at 448 pages. I'll actually let him explain the rest from here, and I'll leave a link in the description below for his video, but if he is right, I think that's a pretty good amount of Pokemon to have. All I know is I'm excited to play it for myself. Anyways, that's it for this video, but let me know what you think in the comments below, and don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. Peace out.